Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head over to Germany once again, and we're going to do another of the beers that I brought back from my little recent trip over there. So this time we're going to go to Braunschweig, which again is in Lower Saxony. It's just to the east of Hanover, and we're going to have a taste of one of the beers from Shadt's Brauerei Gasthaus. And this guy is the Märzen beer, which was the Jahrzeit or seasonal beer as they would call it in Germany. That was the seasonal beer that was available when I was over there in April, and it is very nice. I've tried it on tap, so it's quite cool to be able to do it on a review for you on the channel. And this guy is actually a growler, as you would call it in America, or a mitnehmen Flasch as they would call it in Germany. So it's poured straight out the tap at the brewery. So I've got a nice fresh beer for you here today. So as is usual with my beer reviews then, I'll take you through a very kind of brief history of the company. There was very little information available on these guys, so it will only be a minute or two. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. The brewery website's available for you in the description below. You can switch the language between German and English, so don't worry about that. And there is also a link there that will take you to my future reviews that I can hopefully do from Shadt's in the near future. I'm sure I will get back to Braunschweig at some point, so I'll review some more of their beers. So anyway, to tell you about Shadt's Brauerei Gasthaus. As I told you, the brewery is based in Braunschweig, or Brunswick as it's known in English, and this is in Lower Saxony in Germany, just to the east of Hanover. For some reason, when you actually search Braunschweig on Google and stuff like that, it always converts it to Brunswick. So all of the data that you'll find on Braunschweig is listed as Brunswick for some reason, and I have no idea why they actually do that. But anyway, the pub itself in Braunschweig is located in the Marstall, very close to the Rathaus, which is the townhouse of course in German, and this is in the very centre of Braunschweig. But Shadt's has been brewing beer since 1985, although it didn't actually state on the website whether this was the foundation date of the company or when this was simply when the company expanded into brewing beer. I'm not sure what came first. The website was a little bit scant of information, if you like. There wasn't that much available on the website, so either they started brewing beer in 1985 or the company was established in 1985. But their brew pub is actually very, very nice, and they do some really good food. I quite enjoyed our little trip there when we went. But the brew pub is a typical German style bar that serves a lot of local food, which, as I say, is very, very good. And they've actually got a large selection of various seasonal foods, and you can see this on their website. If you check out the website, there's a food calendar there, so you can go and see the various seasonal things such as the Spargelsuppe, the asparagus soup, which is quite a very seasonal thing in the spring in Germany. You also get Kartoffelsuppe as well there, which is pretty cool, and that was one of my favourite things when I was living over there. But the thing that's really cool about this bar actually is all the kind of copper metal work that goes on in there. What's interesting is these guys actually do brew their beer in the brew pub, and they've got all of these copper tanks and pipes and everything, but the copper is simply decorative. It's just basically plated on the outside, and the inside of all these pipes and all the kettles is actually stainless steel, and as I say, they're all working, so you can go to a proper working brew pub if you like. And the hotel part of the place is very nice as well. So as I say, do go and check out the website of Shadt's Brauerei Gasthaus, and it's a really nice place. I visited there myself, and I was quite lucky to get my little mitnehmen Flasch to bring back and review for you on the channel. So anyway, that's all the information I was actually able to find on Shadt's, so as I say, go and check them out. But just to tell you the other beers, they do only have two beers that they brew year round, and this apparently is the Pilsner and the Weizenbier and the regular beers. And they do have several seasonal beers. In the winter apparently they brew a Bock, they also have a Maibock, and I got the Märzen beer, which was just at the end of, when was it? It was sort of 20th of April or something like that I was there. So this guy is the Märzen beer, which is the seasonal for the kind of springtime if you like. I'm not sure what their summer seasonal is. I think the Maibock goes all the way up to like September, then they've got their October beer, and then the Doppelbock. So they've got 4 different seasonal beers that they do, but they are all very nice. The Pils beer is good, and this guy is really nice as well. So without further ado, let's actually get on to the tasting of this guy. There's not much to tell you about the specs of this beer other than it is a 4.8% Dunkel beer, but they do describe it on the website as being a Dunkel Märzen. So it is a Märzen beer and also a Dunkel, but I've seen it listed on Rate Beer as being a Zwarny Dunkel. So I'm not sure exactly how to describe the style of this, but I do know it's a nice big bready Dunkel beer from when I tried it there. So as you can see on the label, the lion is the typical symbol of the Shadt's Brauerei, and this is a nice little mitnehmen Flasch. It's only 500 millilitres. It looks a little bit more than that, but it is only half a litre, and when the woman filled it up for me, she actually had a little bit of trouble filling it up, but it looks really nice. So it says, I think this I can't remember what Wohl is in Germany, or Wohl. It's not Vol like full, but it's quite nicely presented actually, so I'm going to keep this, and once I get my own space to do these beer reviews, I'll store this up on the back of that and keep it there. So without further ado, this is the Märzen beer from Shadt's Brauerei Gasthaus in Braunschweig. So, nice typical pop from the German beers. I always love that, it's always good fun. So we'll get this guy out and into the glass. Been quite looking forward to drinking this beer and reviewing it for you. I've had it for a couple of weeks sitting, so it should hopefully still be fresh. There's still a little bit inside there. Let's try and get the last of it out. There's a little bit of sediment there, but it's poured as it would in the brewery. Just a little bit going over the side. But yeah, very, very nice. So we'll just sit this back down and get it out. Yeah, so as you can see, this guy is poured with a nice kind of 2-finger sort of beigey head. I'll just bring up the light and let you see the exact colour of this. So it's got a nice beigey head on it. As you can see, it's not transparent at all. It's a nice sort of red, deep orangey amber colour. It's sort of coppery actually, I think is maybe the right way to describe this beer. I'll just put the light down. It's actually very, very bright, as you can see. But there's a lot of little bubbles just rushing up towards the bottom of the head of this one. But it looks very, very nice. Hazy, as is typical with German beer. I can see just a little teeny bit of sediment on the bottom of the bottle, but it looks really, really nice actually. So without further ado, let's give this guy a smell. So it's got all the typical elements you would expect of a German Dunkel beer. You've got a nice big bready malt base in there. Quite a bit of toasted character as well. It is like a toasted sort of brown bread that you get from the Dunkel beers and the Märzens. Yeah, the Dunkel beers are always very malty. You don't really get that much of a hoppy character from them. But you've got a nice kind of cereal element to the aroma as well. As I say, it really smells like a kind of nice roasted brown bread. But there's a little bit of nuttiness to it as well. I think there is definite kind of nutty character to it. But it's nice, big and bready. There's a sweet sort of caramel element to it, but a nice kind of toasted element also. But a nice kind of, it really just smells like a kind of nice toasted brown bread. A little bit buttery as well, if that makes sense. But you can pick up just a little bit of a grassy hop in it. So it smells really, really nice. So there's not too much to the aroma of this one. It's got all the typical elements you would expect of the Dunkel beer, but as I always say, just have a smell of your beers. So this is the Märzen Dunkel beer from Shadt's Brauerei Gasthaus in Braunschweig, Lower Saxony in Germany. Slanje. Yeah. So again, yeah, it has all the typical elements you would expect. Yeah, it's actually a bit lighter after being in the bottle than I remember. I remember it being kind of a little bit heavier in the when it came off the tap, but it's maybe just I'm serving it at a little bit of a lower temperature than it would be off the tap. Because this guy came out of the fridge, I took it out of the fridge about half an hour ago just to let it settle. But it does actually feel quite a little bit thinner. But much like the aroma, it's a nice big bready malt base. As I was saying, it's very similar to the aroma. It's got a nice big kind of slightly bready and buttery, brown bread buttery kind of feel to it, this one. There's maybe a little bit of a biscuit sweetness to it as well. But really it's a very malty beer. It just blankets, the kind of bread feel just blankets the middle of the tongue. It feels a little bit nice, sweet, buttery. There is a sort of caramel and biscuity flavour to this one as well. If you move out towards the sides of the tongue a little bit more, you're getting the hoppy character. The hops that are in this one, it's a typical kind of noble hop character, if you like. It's quite grassy actually, and there is a little bit of a citrusy sweetness in there, and that goes into the aftertaste. It does have a kind of slightly lemony citrus flavour on that. Maybe I've just had it in the bottle a wee bit long, but it is just a tad sharp, but it is mainly a grassy hop that comes out. But there is a sort of earthy underlying to it, which is typical of the noble hops really. But yeah, it's got a nice kind of typical noble hop flavour. As I say, that's just right round the edges of the palate. The earthy character comes out at the back of the tongue just a little bit more, and you're getting the grassiness around the front, and just the sharper citrus is right on the front arch there. As I say, in the middle of this beer, in the middle of your palate rather, is a sort of nice big bready mouthfeel there, and that just blankets the tongue. It's a sort of brownie bread, toasted brown bread flavour with a little bit of a kind of buttery feel to it as well. But there's a nice kind of more caramel and biscuity sweetness on there as well, so it's really, really nice actually. It's a typical Dunkel beer, and it's a nice, sessionable, drinkable beer. But yeah, if you enjoy a German Dunkel beer, then definitely give this guy a try. As for comparing it between the Märzen and the Dunkel beer, I would say that it probably does more suit the Märzen style of beer a bit more. It is a little bit more hoppy, if that makes sense. The Märzen beers, from what I remember, always have that little bit of a kind of grassy hop, but this guy does have a good bit of earthy character in it too, I think. But you can argue about styles all day. The main point is that this is a very good beer. So in terms of the style of the actual mouthfeel of this one, what I would say is that it is quite mid-bodied. The carbonation on it's actually a little bit sharper than I remember. It's a little bit more active. When you get it on tap, I always found that it was very smooth, but again, that might just be the temp. Maybe I'm just serving it at a little bit too low a temperature. I'm not quite sure about that. And what you would expect from this is that the malt character will build a little bit more as the beer gains in temperature. But yeah, in terms of the mouthfeel, as I say, it's quite mid-bodied. It's got a nice kind of smoothish carbonation, but as I say, at the lower temperature, it does become a little bit kind of sharper and more prominent, if that makes sense. It's a mainly malty beer, but it does have a little bit of a noble hop kind of flavour around, and it's a bit sharper at the front where you're getting the grassy character, but then it's a bit darker towards the back of your palate. So overall, it's a really nice kind of Dunkel Märzen beer. I think it leans a bit more towards the Märzen style because of the hop character that's in it. But that's just me, and the sort of breadiness is a little bit more of, makes it a little bit more of a Märzen beer. The characteristics of a Märzen is more the kind of nice breadiness and the sort of hoppier character. A Dunkel beer to me normally is a little bit more of a kind of big caramel blast, and this guy is a little bit more hoppy. It's a bit more of a balance between a hoppy and malty beer, but so it's more of a Märzen to me. But yeah, it's a really nice beer, and I would recommend that you check out this brewery if you do get the chance to go to Braunschweig. It's a nice little town, so do go and check it out. So I hope you've enjoyed this beer review. It's something a little bit different on here. I'm not sure if anyone will have tried this beer, but if you do happen to have tried it, please let me know in the comments section your own thoughts on it. Always interesting to read the comments. But I thank you again for watching my beer reviews, and as always, please like, subscribe, share. I've got another 2 beers that I've brought back with me that are mid-name and flashy, so I will review those in the next couple of days. But I thank you for watching, and please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. I'll catch you soon with my next beer review. Slàinte.